For those that
Good
know.
morning, everyone. Welcome to our meeting. We haven't seen you all in a while, and we're all glad to be here. And before we start with the agenda into the business, so we've got some new faces in the room with Tiffany and everyone, and so maybe we can quickly just make sure we know who's who.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tiffany Sanchez. I'm Rory's new executive assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
It's great to meet you, and thanks for all you've already done.
No worries. My pleasure.
And I'm sorry, I don't.
I'm Lori Held. I'm Mike's assistant, and I'm helping Tiffany since this is her first time.
Oh, okay, wonderful. With the mask, you know.
Right.
I apologize. I thought you knew, Lori.
Well,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
well,
I apologize.
there's an equation: masks plus
Right.
haven't been here in a while.
Lori also was
good.
Employee of the Year.
That's right.
Thank you.
Very true. Very
Well,
true.
I
She
know I meant
is
congratulations
person
then, and let me reiterate.
Super grog.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's good to see you all, and I hope everybody's had a good Christmas and New Year, and everything's going well for everybody and their families. So we're going to start with we've seen the agenda, and before I ask for approval, I would like to ask for an addition or an amendment to that, and add before F, so E plus 1. To talk about the SNAP program participation for admission, and get a little bit more information on that, and the Museums for All program. Is that okay?
Accept as amended.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the agenda has been approved. We've seen the minutes. Any question, discussion?
Move to accept as
Thank you
presented.
so much. And so we'll jump straight in for the museum services report.
Yes, ma'am. Here's a copy of what was sent out, just for reference. Sorry. Here you go. I won't discuss everything, but what I'd like to do is look back just to look forward. So, first things first, Melissa is out this week with COVID. She tested positive on Monday, and as you would guess, we have over the past couple weeks we've had a few employees here and there test positive. So nothing too crippling, but there have been a few here and there, and Melissa's one of them. So got a couple other guys out in my department as well. Having said that, that's the reason for her absence. Last month, of course, Susan, you were here for the opening of the Fragile Collections exhibit. Excellent reception. This paper says there's 5,900 people that have visited since it opened. It's over 6,000 now. I went down and checked it this morning. I can't say that the counter is entirely accurate, but it's 6,200 as of right now, because sometimes we have employees going in and out of there to do some maintenance and whatnot. But it is a popular exhibit, so that's a great thing. A couple other things I'd like to mention. March will be a busy month, as you might suspect, not just for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day, but there's also March 25th, the Medal of Honor Day, and then that's the 100th anniversary of Carrier Aviation. So Tom Ford actually brought this to our attention, and Melissa's working with the volunteers to gather some research materials in support of that. So March, again, kind of coinciding with spring, will be a busy time for us. Some of the more physical projects, constructive projects that you can see on there. We're gonna tackle the Vietnam experience, mess hall restoration. I mentioned that last month. The foundation and the roof are in really bad condition, so we'll have that. We're gonna tackle that in February. Have it fixed and repaired before the busy events in March. Excuse me. And then the big one, which just the can keeps getting kicked down the road. With our contractor, but he will be here next week, is the aircraft restoration project. So weather has delayed their progress for a couple aircraft down in Georgia that they're restoring, and they will be arriving next week, and they'll start on the E-1B Tracer and then the Sea King helicopter. So from our side, it's basically just providing them power, air, things like that, but those guys will fall in and conduct work. They'll be here for the better part of a month, weather depending, and we'll have 2 aircraft restored.
And you said that's March or April?
They're going to start, they'll be on the ground here, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. But Ponsford Restoration, the folks that won the contract, and they should be on the ground early next week. I know I've threatened that for quite some time, but weather keeps delaying their progress on an F-105 that they're restoring down in Georgia. So they're painting right now, and then they'll pull stakes and then drive up here to Patriots Point. These guys don't fly anywhere, so they'll do restoration projects in New Mexico, to Washington State, all over the Southeast, to Virginia, and they have to line haul all of their own stuff. So, as you might suspect, because they have some really serious big equipment. And that's the long and short of it. What I did not mention, and it's more a volunteer-led project, because they're funding it and they're doing most of the work. We're providing a little bit of support. I didn't put it on there again because it is the Yorktown volunteers that are doing this. It's the Laffey Signal Bridge. For context, there's the location of the signal bridge in that red circle. That's what it currently looks like as of yesterday. So they're going to completely strip that down, refurbish, repaint it, replace all the glass, and put that back on tour. So it's not a huge project. It's about $5,000. But they're over there this week working on it, and they'll be working on it the next couple weeks until it's complete. But sorry about that. But there you go. And pending your questions, that is all I have.
The one thing that you saw that I added to Mike's report was the hiring of the registrar. So we did put out a call for registrar that went through the AAM website. We got some really, really fine candidates, and we selected one. Her name is Meredith Kadlik. She's not here to correct me if I missay her name, so that's okay. But she will be here at the end of February. She has a pretty impressive resume, including she's worked as a registrar for the past 6 years at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. So good pedigree. She has family here in town, but she has a really nice, extensive resume. And she, along with Melissa, that'll free up Melissa to do more of the curatorial aspects of her job, which is technically what her job is. And Meredith will come in and help clean up our collections, both our 3D artifacts and also our digital collections as well. And the long-term goal for that will be a digitization project to make sure that we have information and artifacts up on our website, so guests can also see what we have to offer in the collection as well, along with the other duties as assigned, helping update exhibits and content development and interpretation.
That's wonderful. Okay, any questions for Mike or Rory or? Well, thank you, Mike. That's quite exciting. All good. And now for Mr. Keith.
So it's been a fun last time we saw a fun period of time. You know, it's kind of funny to look back through the evolution of the books. You know, I think the first book we put out, we actually put all the board members on the back, so you guys are floating out there in cyber world and the world. And then you look at the big, textbook that really didn't go over well. This is the new 3rd grade book that went out. So we have 6,000 requests so far. They're coming in daily. The number's going big. We had to do out under the bid process. The bids all came back in at the numbers that we estimated at, and they were perfect, with one exception. Now that the books are going out, we will have to do a second and probably a third printing. But they all came in under $10,000. So the nice thing about that, working with Nick and on procurement and everything, we can take in these new bids, collect new requests, and in March come up with a new printing and talk to the printer. No price increase, anything, bam, it's done within like 2-3 days. We just send them the list and they send it out. So this is the new 3rd grade book. This is the proof copy, and it is going out with the science book and the history book all going out at the same time. So we have 6,000 of the 3rd grade book and 9,000 of the fifth grade book series. That was all part of this requirement that we would only ship books to schools that requested it. And that has been a challenge in itself, as we're finding out now, with the deadline for this print was December 1st. So we have a whole new list of books and everything going out that possibly in March that will increase that number, along with a new fifth grade history book that is going through the proofing stages right now, and Hannah has done a new engine room book which is going through the proofing. And what's really kind of unique about this whole process is that when you look at the $415,000 that we originally got from the EIA back 7 years ago, whatever, and you look at how we're using the money, under that first printing we used all the money to print 15,000 copies of this book. And now what we're doing is we're printing multiple series of books, and by the end of the day I'm anticipating somewhere between 30 and 40,000 books going out. Not only have we done that, we're funding the Teachers Conference, which is the segue in, and this year we're doing the theme Learning Through Literacy. The program will focus on the use of the museum's primary documents, so there's going to be a lot of work with Melissa and the gang in trying to do that literacy and interactive virtual platforms. I mean, that's the whole goal, because we found in the past a lot of our teacher conferences really didn't have a theme. So how are you really helping the teachers? So in working with the State Department and all their gurus, they really came in and said, yeah, you've got to come up with something that shows us the amount of time a student goes and uses your product, how they're progressing with the product, how they're using it with the curriculum. We want to see the data. We want data. Because everybody's talking about, yeah, you're there, but show us that your people are really using you and what are they accomplishing. The Compass Project, which I hope, Nicole, I may need your help on this to get to this. So what we did and what we rolled out at the Teachers Conference was this new platform, this interactive platform. And the way it works is, the only way you can get to it is by going to patriotspoint.org's education page. And when the time's right and everything's set and the skeleton's done and we're using this library of 60 films that we've already built, I've already have in our collection and working with Melissa on the primary documents, then what will happen is we will ask Chris and the gang just to push a button, create this button, say this is the interactive platform. And that's how you get to it. And when you get to it, and if I can get to it now, let's show you the prototype. This has been working with the State Department to comply with their assessment requirements. And this is just the company that has created this. And we're using WordPress. And the beautiful thing about using WordPress and everything is that both Hannah and I are developers. So, we are able to go in and change all this ourselves. So we had a company create this skeleton. So the only way you get to this is through Patriots Point. This is a direct link in. You can't search, you can't find this. This is, it's not sitting on our servers, but it's it. So what a student would do is they would go to this sign in right here, and I'll just do my name. And so here they've got to log in with an email address. This is a password that we give them. So it all depends on, we can do it two ways. If there's content up here that we want everybody to have access to, we can make it free. And through Patriots Point's website, they can go to a direct link to this, and that content is all the educational stuff that we develop and can manipulate is free. Or we can require them to log in, and this logs in. When they log in to take a course. So if you go to the 5th grade here, and I haven't logged into any of the courses, but these are the 3 courses that we have now. But when they log into a course, it shows their progression of how they're doing it, what they've done. It's got quizzes. So if I go up here to the JRTC, which is the Flight Academy, and I'm working with the Fort Knox with the curriculum developers up there, and they're really kind of funny because we were talking about all of this soft stuff such as team building, career development. They said that is already in the curriculum. We don't want to see that. What we want to see is something where they can work our curriculum into it. Show us how we can bring students down here and they can use our curriculum. But all these, the stuff like team building, character development, all that, that's already in their curriculum. So they wanted to give us a tool. So we went back and brought down, they're working right now, we're finishing up with Cole's help. The Flight Academy is 100% functional. And we've gone back using a lot of the stuff that we originally developed in the beginning when we had the all-immersive program. When we brought in the students for the 6-hour programs, they stayed on board the ship. They were met by our instructors dressed in flight suits. We could take up, the problem with it is we could only take 60 students. It was always a limitation factor. But they were given T-shirts. They did 6 hours of work in the Flight Academy, and the powers to be at that time didn't like that. They wanted us to blow up stuff, so we went and did the higher degree model with Lockheed. I just bought perpetual models, licenses for all of the Flight Academy computers for $1,000. So we now don't have to spend any more money. We were spending up to $36,000 a year to keep that thing operational. Now we have $1,000. What's also good is I'm in collaboration with the Florida STEM Museum, which is a museum which is using the Lockheed navigation package. And Lockheed is pushing this academic package throughout the United States. So we'll have all these other schools that we can work in, and they'll use our material. So we'll be able to go to Chris and say, Chris, we need to brand some of our material because these schools may want to use it. So we're going to have that national exposure. And then you have the Charleston Southern, Clemson, and South Carolina. I've sit on that committee. We're trying to get the American Pilot Association's curriculum used for the high school, and we'll be the 8th grade program. So that's why the JRT's programs are going to be so important. But if you look at this, like on the timelines, what we're going to do here is we're going to take, I don't want to do this, I just want to see, but you can see the progress, the difficulty, the length of each programs. And this is all, when you enroll in the course, this is all tracked. So on this program, we just have a video, and we're only going to use 100% stuff that we produce. We're not, because we want to stay away from all of these copyright issues. And we have a library of films, so we're not going to use any YouTube stuff, none of that stuff, because the State Department's all over us about not using YouTube, because the problem with YouTube is it's a nightmare. So they want to see original content. So all these tracking stuff on the Flight Academy, we have the ability to, it's not going to let me back out of this. But I'll give you another example of the illustrated videos. We have a library of videos, and so what they do is, with the rollout of each book, we have videos that track a chapter in the book. Don't play on the slowness. But what's really cool about this platform, it's all drag and drop. So we can take the content, we can get approved by Chris on editing, on anything, make sure all the branding issues are in there. The video's the same thing, and then we just drag and put it in. The skeleton is built out completely for the interactivity. What's cool for the teachers is that when the kids use this, they can use this on their iPhones, they can use this on their any iPad, but it goes back to the teacher directly, so she can get the quizzes, get the quiz grades. We don't get it, which is what the State Department didn't want us to get. It's for tracking purposes. But what we will get is that we've got 20 kids that have done this, and we've got 20 kids that scored this way. I won't know who these 20 kids are. The teacher will. So you've got, and this is pretty much it. But if you would look at one of the courses, if I had enrolled in a course, off to the side here you would have all the different chapters, and for every chapter there would be a quiz. I think the Patriots Point Flight Academy should have done this, where it shows it better. So we just put it there. So there you go. So this is a perfect example of the student entering into it. So you would click in here, and this would give you one of our multiple videos. As you can see, we're using That's the software we're using to store and use all of our. What is empennage? Huh?
What is?
Fuselage.
Fuselage?
No, EMPENNAGE.
Totally
This
forget.
word.
Oh. A typo? Just
What's it
testing
supposed
you.
to be?
Just seeing, your
I
knowledge.
thought guys were going into French. No.
But it's that clean and that simple. And those are all EIA funded programs. So this is totally funded by the EIA. And everything that you saw cost us $6,000 to build all the skeletons. So now all we're doing is using all the tools that are built into it, and we can drop and load anything and everything. And like I said, we've already got 60 videos that were built in for past programs. So everything that we do, all of our books, everything will create content that will support this. So every book will have a timeline, and so instead of using a zapper, when you go to that timeline, you hit the timeline in the chapter, and the same video would have pulled up if you didn't have to use the zapper. So we still use the zapper technology, like in this book, but on the timeline it would be talking to show a picture of the fish. You would hit that timeline little thing, and all this material would come up actually on a web base. And what's cool is you can do this either for controlling it, or it can be for the general public. It all just depends on what content we want to put out there and use.
What would be the disadvantage in allowing access to the general public?
There is none. Well, for us, for EIA, we want to track. We have to
I
track.
understand that, but you could do that. I mean, you could have those classes or something to go.
Absolutely.
Do
All I
something different.
would have to do is work with Chris on how to create a button and have the general public, and they can use anything we want to give them. I mean, the skeletons are just so easy for us to manipulate and use. So we can do that. It's very easy. It's just, it can be open, it can be password protected. We're password protecting it because we want the teachers to enroll so we can get the data, because we were getting slammed on that.
Yeah, I get that part. I don't know why we wouldn't open it up
We could, absolutely.
to everybody. I mean, have the teachers and students go over here or something.
And that's you could do it just from the dashboard up there. In other words, they can go to patriotspoint.org, push in, and it's going to take them to that dashboard. But to get to the 5th grade programs, you got to sign in. If you went to the public programs, you would just push public, and you would have the same abilities to do it. But it's WordPress, and the good thing is WordPress is not a challenging program to work with, but we don't need to. All we're doing is dropping and dragging content, which was the whole
The
goal.
other thing is this funded through our EIA fund?
This part is right now, yes, and that's why the only thing we have up there are 3rd, 5th, 8th, and ROTCs. So to push it over to the public side of it, if we spent any extra money, but I don't see the need to spend any extra money because I'm staff. So it's just you're not paying my salary. I'm not worried about that.
So 3rd, 5th, and 8th are the benchmark years,
3rd, 5th, and 8th, right? 8th, right.
and so that's why they're focusing this towards those age groups. So Keith, you've got 5th grade book, engine book, 8th grade, and 3rd grade.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's the 1, 2, 3, 4?
5 books.
What's the 5th one? 5th,
Engine,
8th, and 3rd.
history.
What's history? Is
The
that
the
5th?
history book I didn't show you, but it was the original history book. I just didn't bring it up because you guys got multiple
Yeah,
copies
what
of it. We didn't
level is
change
that
it at
for?
all.
What is that for?
That's 5th grade. The only 2 books that have expanded is the 3rd grade is this new one, The Ship's Tale, which is more the story about Scrappy, and is the challenge with this was writing it to a 3rd grade level and everybody approving as to what a 3rd grade level was, so that went back and forth. The 8th grade is really the engine room because that's more STEM and science. With that segue, Rory got a chance to meet with the Flight Academy programmers yesterday, and we showed him a list of stuff that we've already developed and stuff that they've developed and are willing to give us that will allow us to do kiosks, if we ever wanted to do. And it's taking stuff that we developed as part of the 6-hour program and shortening it. So we already own, and we can put our brand on it, a simulation which we can put in a kiosk that allows you to take a plane, take off from the Yorktown, fly through a loop, and land back in 2 minutes. And so the public could just go in and just do that. We already own it. So it's just a matter of, getting the hardware technology to do something like that for a later date. Because that 6-hour program that we developed created an awful lot of content. And when we changed the programs to 2 hours, it was just a different philosophy.
So when does this whole thing go live?
Well, this is right now. We were waiting to publish the books, get the books into the final proof. So now we're just dragging and dropping and developing. The skeleton is done. The only thing we have not beta tested, and we have to get school groups to work with us, is the teachers using it and being able to track data. That's fine. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing we got where we got.
So your process is you got the books. This is
now
finished
just putting
up.
everything in, right.
And then you're going to select, or how are you going to get your test group? Is that going to be
We
coming
have
through the
focus groups
state,
already set up.
Or does it come that way or this way? You know what I'm saying? Is that coming from you out, connecting to the teachers, or is the state, the EIA or whoever you're talking to up there?
EIA is done for the year. I mean,
Yeah, but
whatever's
who's
done
your
for this year
curriculum
is
person?
done.
Who is your where's your curriculum person in Columbia? What department? Who are you connecting with for all this up there?
Yeah, that was done through Dr. I'm drawing a
That's
blank
okay.
on her
But I'm just-
name. Yeah, and
Is
that was originally
Is that Rainey?
Rainy Knight.
Yeah.
Rainy Knight. Dr. Rainy Knight looked
Yeah,
at this.
okay.
So when we did the Compass layout last year at the teachers conference and this concept, that was all done through her, and these were all recommendations in complying with her request. That's why the books have to be requested through a process. This is why this has to be able to track progress and has to kick back to the teachers. But in sense of this application, all that was done last year. So what happens is hopefully we get this rolled out, get some data, and next year when we go up and have to talk to her again in November, we've got something to show her. But we've got to November to get this going.
So is she curriculum or a content area?
She's assessment on a curriculum.
Okay.
She is big on showing relevancy and progress.
Yeah. Just
Really
wondering
big.
where she is.
Which is fine. I mean, because we've got all the tools. It's now just our goal is to get the kids here, and I feel Sarah's pain. I'm always trying to support Sarah and monitoring Sarah because I love to see Sarah getting the bookings because it gives me hope that that somebody
Well,
up there is going to start going in the school level and doing what Sarah's been able to
I think
accomplish.
that this school year is going to be a mess
So do I.
until summer, and they're just got to there's just so much to sort through, and I think next year is probably when it'll be a more clean thing to fit this into their whatever it is they come up with.
Absolutely.
But it's a kind of a train wreck.
But I love talking to Sarah because she gives me hope.
Yeah.
It really gives me hope, and it gets very frustrating because you look at it and go like, I have nothing to show you. I can show you this, but I
Well,
can't
this
show
is
you
awesome.
kids walking on the deck.
Because it's focused virtually, but you still got the provisional stuff for in-class instruction and everything. So you've got the pieces of it.
Well-
but I know that they're gonna tell you when and how and who and what teachers want to, because they do have a buy-in. They're gonna have to assess and have a piece of it too. So that's gonna be out of your hands, I think.
But
And then you'll find out what they want to do.
an interesting thing has happened, and this happened in working with Chris and Kevin, in talking with their groups that are coming here. They're mostly middle school and up 8th grade and higher. And in talking to those teachers, and a lot of them are we've got brand new scavenger hunts that are going grade appropriate and everything. But it's interesting to hear them discuss what they want to use and what they can use and are willing to use. And they've done. I mean, I'm impressed by the numbers, and I hope they hold, because the tour operators are really working hard. I mean, Kevin and them have booked a lot of trips. EIA, we got a lot of bookings, but as we get closer to the dates, they pull. But I don't see that with the tour operators. You know, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, they're holding the private schools, and what Kevin and Chris are doing is it's strong compared to public. So
you're navigating another planet, so you know this. I think it's great, and you know, just because you're covering a lot of possibilities and variables. So
last thing, not to be so long, is just a staffing issue, and Rory and I are working on that. But it's good. I mean, the content's good. I'm excited, but I think this year's a wash. I mean, but the nice thing is, whatever is going to be done EIA, it'll be visited in September and October of next year. I mean, of this year. So we will hopefully have the data going and have something more to take it and show that we've complied with their request. We've put in all the pieces they've asked us. Now we need to get the data, and we have to reach out and get the focus groups. They're not going to, I mean, it's been a struggle trying to get them to even request the books. And we think what's going to happen is a lot of them are just gotten so used to us sending them to it. Somebody, they're like, where are the books?
Well, I think, a priority ought to be that what you're doing, because what you're doing is paving the way for a bigger EIA
That's
ask
right. Yeah, that's what
next
it is.
time. And, you'll have some accountability measures. You'll have some statistical stuff. And I think that what we're going to see evolving in the school system is an all-out effort coming through the governor's office to remediate these kids for all this lost time and all these lost experiences they've had as soon as things clean up. And I think we are in a really unique place to regionally support that. And I think it could be huge for them to be able to tout this as an asset that meets those goals of re-involving the kids, and especially the social integration, and especially the historical content that is correct, and staying away from political opinion and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a strong program that really, I'm glad you're able to invest in it, and I hope you get your help.
We just focus on the ship. I mean, everything's about the ship.
I mean,
the new book's all about the
that's-
ship. Everything's about the
that's
book.
the
The engine
strength.
room. I mean, there's no politics in the engine room.
That's the strength, but I just hope we can get it really, perfect, or really done, and, kind of tied up in time for next school year. So I think you'll be in great shape.
Search and rescue is a lot better than going and blowing up everybody. So
Well, I think it's good we're focusing on the ship.
yeah, focus on the ship.
It's history's.
We showed Rory this new STEM product with the Flight Academy that is just so incredible. They can get all the parts, and we give them the mission and the parts of a plane, and they can design a plane in the classroom, and they can actually design it out of paper, and then when they bring it here and fly the mission, they compete to see whose design flew best in the mission. So longer wings create more lift, but aren't as maneuverable. So the mission takes you through a bunch of mountains flying it. So it's really this cool piece of STEM technology, because it hits the design element, and it allows them to do all this work at school before you come, and then you can actually fly the mission. But then Rory had a good point. What about the school group, and you bring up the point too about they can't get here? Well, we can control that and send the mission up to them. They just got to spend $59 and put the same program that we're using now.
That was a big thing in this gifted and talented program. All that, there was a whole thing about you make these paper airplanes and fly them and do all this and get into the math and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
that's what this
so
new program is
that's-
pretty powerful
Yeah.
in being able to do
that
it.
you ought to really connect into gifted and talented too, because that would be.
We got enough.
Well, I'm just saying, the more you got to enrich these kids, the better, the more money you're going to get. Just saying. And I hope that y'all can hire these people that need to be hired, you know, to really expand, because I think that's a huge priority, and I hope you get as many as you need to.
Well, we're
So-
watching. I'm really watching the overnight camping program because
Yeah.
I see it. I see it's being strong, and that's going to be. I feel if they do well and they can keep it up, then they'll give us a good barometer for September.
Thanks. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Keith?
Too much.
That's fine. That's good. Okay. Overnight camping. Miss Sarah.
Alright, good morning. A lot has happened since the last time we met, so I'm going to give y'all a little bit of a brief review over what we did in November and December, kind of a snapshot of where we're at and then where we're hoping to be this year and then into next. So, in November and December, as you recall, we did some pilot groups or test weekends to kind of put new customers through the program changes and evaluate what we've done, get feedback as we finished up the development of the program for the launch in January. So I had about just under 280 folks that spent the night on the ship in November and December to help participate and evaluate for us. Overwhelmingly positive. I've got a few comments I'm going to read just because I think it's important to highlight. These were comments that were on the surveys that they filled out for me. The group had a great experience, learned a great deal in the process. Worthwhile is an understatement. I see this as an incredible opportunity for adults and children from all over to learn and embrace the legacy of the Yorktown and the Laffey. It made history come alive. The program was way better than the previous program. Would recommend other organizations to do this. Very impressive. The Live Like a Sailor program is an impressive opportunity with unique ability to heighten awareness about the Yorktown, her service to our country, and the preservation of our nation's history. I've already started recruiting my neighbors and their kids. All of our scouts want to return and plan on doing this yearly. A great experience for an overnight classroom as well. So just a few comments from the surveys that I collected from those guests in November, December, just about the changes that we've made and how they've received those, so that's encouraging. I will say that as a point as we move forward, lack of food service as an included option for the groups is proving to be a larger issue than I thought. In the meantime, what we are doing is we are allowing them to bring meals aboard the ship so they can bring food items with them. We have storage for that. We're allowing them to order food to be delivered. They can go pick it up. They can go out to eat. And then we worked out an arrangement with Hamby Catering to offer 2 served meals on the ship. So that's kind of where we're at. What I'm noticing is we do have a group, and I've had 1 or 2 so far that have chosen not to come and pursue a trip because food is not included and it's too much of a hassle for them to plan otherwise. Comments that I'm getting is very inconvenient for them to have to figure out their own food. If they have to go out, sometimes restaurants are busy, they can't accommodate larger numbers, and then just like an overall, obviously they want to have food on the ship. So this is a bigger issue than just bringing it up right now, but I want to put it on your radar as something that as we move forward we should probably readdress and think about, since we used to serve food and it was part of the experience, that's no longer part of the overnight, and it's already starting to pose a problem. But that's kind of where we're at with our options, and I'm working with the groups as they plan their trips to provide them with resources. I have a printout here if you want to see it of what we're telling them in terms of the food recommendations for businesses that can accommodate larger numbers, catering situations as well, and so it's all about coordination of times and delivery. So it's a lot, but we're managing. I do just want to put that out there as something to think about as we move forward and wanting to grow the program. That meal service is something that's key and vital.
So Miss, excuse me for
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Hamby, has that she provided any of this yet?
Yes.
And how
So
did
we've
that work?
done. We had two opportunities to test that out, and in our focus groups, and then I've got, I think, 3 scheduled since we've reopened. I haven't had any. I don't have any in January. What I notice about the conversations I have in terms of Hamby is that they feel like it's a little bit more expensive than what they'd want to spend on a meal, but they would lean towards that for the convenience of them not having to do anything, that we kind of work out all the details for them through that.
So do they, so they do it individually, or is this, they do a package of the whole thing?
They would do it's individually, so it's an overall number. So what I would do is, let's say we've got 130 spending the night on the ship in a particular weekend. If 100 of those wanted to purchase the meal, I would send that to Hamby and say, you've got 100 people buying breakfast and or dinner or whatever the breakdown is. But Hamby does it based on the overall count. So it could be 3 different groups that have bought that meal, if that makes sense. And that goes into the pricing of the product as well.
So, do you have anything?
I was just curious if it would be simpler to say, here's the package, Hamby, that, you know, for $50. Because to me, to come for a weekend and spend the night, if it was $50 for all the meals, I don't think that's bad.
They weren't able to do all of the meals, which is why I went with just 2 options. And I didn't want, in case someone didn't want to pay that, I didn't want to make it something that you were having to do. So I feel like we could probably work out a better situation if it was something served on board the ship like we had before. But I know that brings in lots of different factors. I just didn't want a customer to feel like they were being pressured into this situation if that's not what they wanted.
So, give me a little context for us, a little
Yes, sir.
context on this. You've had 2 groups choose not to come out of how many?
Oh, it's a smaller, yeah. So we've received over 120 bookings, and so when you're comparing the number that have just said, hey, we're not going to do this because it's affecting our trip, is small. I did want to just point out that even though I had 2 groups out of the 100 that were like, we're not going to make the trip right now because this is just not going to work out for us. The comments that I'm getting is the inconvenience of it, and that's multiple. So I would say out of the 100 reservations that we've spoken to so far, 75 to 80% of them have had questions or concerns about how to deal with food. Like, how do I bring food? Where do I put it? Well, are we allowed to cook? So there's just like, we don't have a good facility for them to bring food and then prepare it for themselves. So that's where things kind of get a little tricky, is that I don't have a facility for them to cook food, and they can't bring grills and that kind of thing.
So were these 2 groups that chose, obviously 2% at least of the
Sure.
number of groups, were they larger groups?
We had, one was a homeschooling group. They were going to bring 200 people, so that would have sold out
That's-
a whole weekend.
I would expect it to skew a little bit toward
Yeah.
the larger groups. So
Sure.
that's
Yes.
an issue.
Yes, sir.
So it's not 2%, it's maybe more than that. Then of the groups that the 280 people that came, you've said some of them said it was inconvenient.
Yes, sir.
Did many of them say they wouldn't come again because of that?
No. So verbatim, we purchased our meal from a local restaurant, which was somewhat of an inconvenience having to depart the ship to pick up food, but not so much a bother that it affected the experience. So that's again, just to say that's overwhelmingly positive. Like, I know that the inconvenience of not having meal service on board is an issue, but it's not what we're doing to provide them a great experience isn't negatively impacting the overall.
What's the size of the average group?
From the reservations that we've received, I'd say the average is about 45 people.
And how many groups would be significantly larger than that of the 100 or so?
Not a lot. I've gotten, I have a school group, a local, Montessori group from Mount Pleasant. They have 140 people reserved. Probably 5 to 7 Cub Scout packs that are at 100 people. another group that's 130. So most of your groups are 80 or less, with, like I said, 30 to 45-ish being where we
Still-
typically have a group size. But you're right, the
Still-
larger the number, the more difficult
Still
meal.
feeding 45 people is not a small task.
It's not an easy
So-
thing to do.
So we've got the three options you outlined earlier, and are we looking at other possibilities?
Not at the time. I just wanted y'all to be aware of like what it is that we're doing, how we're handling the questions that we get, the processes that we put in place to deal with food service as it is right now, and then just trying to open the door to conversations about looking at food service being included and served on the ship again. I just wanted to start that conversation.
Yeah, this will go beyond overnight. This goes to whether we bring food service back onto the ship at all. Once that happens, if that happens, then some of this issue will go away. The other problem with that is, Susan, what you were talking about there with offering the catering, right? We can't just go out and offer that. It would have to be an RFQ and everything like that, so a state contract to do that. So that's why it wasn't done originally right now, because we still don't know. I would also, my personal opinion on this is that I feel like some of these people find it an inconvenience because a lot of these people are repeat visitors. Change is always hard for someone else. If we never offered this, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, but since they've had this experience for the past so many years, now they expect it, and that's fair to their point, but you know.
Well, I will say, since COVID, whoever said it's really hard to get in a restaurant and everything, even for two people, it is
Yeah.
hard right now. So, I mean, I can certainly see. And then you can't sit, or you can sit, or they run out of this, or I mean, it's just the food industry's up in the air too. So,
And I would note that of those who have been before and had food service, that's the area of our most complaints.
Yeah,
Yes.
So, you know,
complain when we got it, when we complain when we don't. That's just
For sure.
that's just life. But we will, yeah.
if we could judge which of those complaints is worse, maybe that would lead us in the right.
But that will be a bigger, like I said, that ties into the bigger thing about whether we want to bring any kind of food service back to the ship at some point. And we're starting to slowly look, as when you saw in the overall report about contracts and vendors and stuff like that. We haven't gotten into the in-depth details, but we are looking at the implications and the.
Well, if we brought it back, it would have to be very different than what we've
Yeah,
done
and that's what I'm
recently,
saying. So
that's
right
for sure.
now, you know,
Absolutely.
so that'll be brought up, and we're not in a place to bring it back right now anyway. So that's going to be over time as well.
how would you start that process of bringing it back? I mean, would you look at the ship and assess the needs and assess all the ways? I mean, I guess if we had a food provider on board the ship, it would be a party option, you know, catering option, a food, you know.
There are multiple. I mean, we would have to do our own internal assessment
That's
of what
what
we
I'm
can.
asking.
Yeah, what we can handle and the demand for it. So a feasibility study for that part. The other option would be, I mean, a third-party contract with a. I think at one time, if I read correctly, I'm trying to remember the name. Sticky Fingers, is that right? Y'all did something with Sticky Fingers. Not saying that, but other ships, our sister ships, do work with third-party vendors to have like cafes and stuff that are run by their company on the ship, and they do their own accessibility as well. I mean, they're not going to just open a restaurant without doing their own studies, financial studies of what the customer wants and needs. So we would work with them to do that.
Are there consultant companies that do that come in and look at what you have, say what you need, how much
They're
it's gonna
consulting
cost?
companies, but that would be, in my personal experience, I'm not saying I know everything clearly, but those consulting companies, when it gets to that point, they actually would be with the third party to see if it's worth their time and effort to come in and do that, because they're looking for revenue as well. So they would do that assessment. I mean, we would do it on our end to see what our side is, but they would do it on their end. There is other options at one of the museums I work for catering wise. They used not a particular restaurant or a caterer, but they used the stadium catering facilities, right? Those companies are equipped. They do all the staffing. They do everything from convention center dinners to stadium food, chips and burgers and stuff like that. And they do a lot of museums and a lot of places for big numbers like that. So that would be an avenue to look at as well.
So if y'all started looking at that, when do you think that might be kind of resolved? This year, next year, when?
Definitely wouldn't be this year. It would probably have to be next year if we can get it rolling.
We probably want to see how the overnight,
Yeah.
since it's a piece, it's a
It's a
big
piece of it.
Peak, yeah.
To see how well that's going. But I've always understood that that's the challenge of putting food on the ship is that this program, right?
Mhm.
Those of you who dealt with it,
I mean, the food, it is a big component just of the normal operations, right? If people are here and they have to leave, even for food trucks, the food trucks have been great, but if you have to walk all the way down the pier for food, the likelihood that you're walking back is slim. And so we like to keep people here longer, and that's another component of that.
And the other thing is we're going to lose that parking lot at some point. I mean, that's where a lot of the big groups would eat their lunches or anything if they weren't on board the ship.
Yeah. What about that picnic area? Is there any idea about when he starts tearing everything up to put that somewhere else where people can eat picnics in the shade?
I couldn't tell you about the shade, but we're assessing options to see it. But right now, we're slim to none on where that picnic area would go.
Because I know that's a big destination
Yeah.
for school groups.
So we'll.
We were able to use Hangar Bay.
Yeah,
three. Hangar
we
Bay
talked
3
about
was
accommodating on the
used
ship,
as the
but nothing
entry
necessarily
whatsoever,
outside in that
Yeah.
kind of outdoor area type thing that we have available right now.
The numbers we brought.
I kind of think I think that's pretty important to think through, because it's going to be a lot of years this place is going to be torn up. Because those teachers would take those kids off into separate groups, and then the instruction would continue under those trees. So, and the ships, you can't. To me, the ship is going to have other groups and other things going on where you don't want to take up, the space.
Well,
Yeah,
right.
that's
Space had
the
always been an
challenge
issue.
was always if
Yeah.
you
It was
had
helpful
a
because
event.
we could use that overflow
Right.
space when we had a ship full of
Right.
guests and
or
other
a
groups.
banquet. Yeah.
Yeah. That might be something to.
But in the original days of the EIA, we had tables set up, and it was, we'd put out all the tables. They were given 15, 20 minutes each, and then we had to clean up all the tables in the mess in Hangar 3, and then that happened every day, and then it stopped you from the rental
You put the
space.
tables in the hangar bay.
Correct, right.
Well, I would suggest
But it
looking
was-
at that strip in front of the Vietnam exhibit that the hotel has.
Hmm.
They, because that's the shady part. It's not part of him. It's close, and there might be, if we had they don't have any plans for it, and maybe talk to them about looking at there and locating some picnic tables.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Because I think that's important, for the older people and all too, just for anybody, not just kids. Just need a place to sit down. Okay. Anything else?
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Sandra?
I'll be brief on this one. Since reopening on January 7th, we've received over 120 reservation requests for dates this year and even into 2023. So I know we have a group booked all the way out into April of next year. Current numbers are over 5,000 guests at this point. There are 13 weekends this spring, March, April, and May, or including the last 2 weekends in February that are sold out. So at our capacity number of 200, 13 weekends from February 19th through the end of May have already been completely reserved. So that's overwhelmingly, I guess, positive. I've definitely taken aback by that. Wasn't expecting that type of a response. So things are exciting. We're getting the ball rolling. We had our first rescheduled group this past weekend. That went really well. It was a lot dealing with the potential weather that some of the groups were having, so we had cancellations. But we managed to have 66 guests on the ship to participate in the new program this past weekend. So briefly, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking to do as we are opening and growing the program. The immersive experience is something that I'm excited about continuing. So our Live Like a Sailor is the one program offering right now, and then as other classes that we were typical offerings in the past, like the Flight Academy, come back available, we can look at expanding program options. But I'd like to continue working to develop a second and a third immersive overnight experience for a guest to choose from. So instead of the Live Like a Sailor, they might get to choose from a different type of experience to provide more options and opportunities. We're going to start working on our JROTC scholarship program again. That was part of the overnight offering, was they could apply for a scholarship. It would be a fully funded overnight trip, including meals, which again, we don't have included meals, so that's kind of where redeveloping that is going to come in. But we're going to start that conversation hopefully next week. I think this week got busy with meetings. And then starting to work on a special overnight weekend for scout groups specifically, in coordination with the Medal of Honor Museum. Since several of their recipients are Eagle Scouts, we wanted to make it a big experience opportunity for Scouts to look at ways that they can earn their Eagle Scout, and just like how that's affected by the Medal of Honor. And anyway, so just I'm excited about that. So as we flesh that out and work on it, we'll give you some more details there. But that's kind of where we're in ground stages on that one. And then this summer, so July 15th and 16th, that weekend, we've reserved for family groups. So this is something that we've had lots of questions over the years about. If we do small groups, if families can come spend the night, and we've only ever been a youth program overnight destination. So we've set aside one weekend this summer to test that out. And so far, with our staff overnight opportunity in December, and then I had a couple influencer families on the ship MLK weekend to promote the opening of the program. Macy organized that through the marketing and sales department. So far it seems like it will work to do small groups, but anyway, we kind of wanted to use this opportunity to see if that's an avenue that we want to take in the future. So that's something that we're going to start working on and promote in March, to try and get some traction there, just to see if the people who have always requested it will actually come. But that's kind of where we're at. This is really exciting. I want to thank y'all for your support over the last few months on getting this program back up and running. So many people are very thankful, and that's all that I keep hearing from these reservations that come in. Thank y'all so much for opening. We've been waiting on this, for a long time. So it's really exciting.
It's a great program.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for all the work you and the others here have done to get this program back up and moving. I think it's certainly these first, I'm like you, I'm really surprised that it's taken off so quickly.
Yes.
Particularly in the middle of where we are right now with the surge.
Absolutely. And we are, just to kind of touch base on that, we are being very flexible with our reservations and postponements and cancellations. So that's something we're continuing in the process. I've had 3 groups so far that were booked. They were rescheduled groups already, and they pushed their date out again because they were going to come in January and February, and they decided, this is not the right time for them. So just to say that is something we're continuing. So we'll see that probably still happen for the next few months, but we're being
Do you feel like you've got all the help you need to do all this?
I am working on building my staff back up. So I had, around 15 folks that worked before, and with the change in how the program is set up and offered, there's not as much of a need for certain people that I had before. But like in terms of like my my guides for my instructors for the Live Like a Sailor. I'm working on training and developing that. So not quite there yet, but my schedule, I've changed my work week, so I'll be here Saturdays when I have groups on the ship to assist and teach when needed. So
yours are 1099.
I've got 3 part-time staff, which help during the week and on the weekends, and then my support staff would be the 1099s.
Wonderful.
So just a couple of those right
We
now.
got 4.
Yeah. Yes.
Good.
Yeah, and I'll start. What I've done is reached out to my folks that worked in the program before we closed to see where people's interest is now, and we're slowly getting feedback.
Good. That's good. Anything else for Sarah? Well, thank you and congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay. E1, while we're kind of at these programming reports, I was wondering if, so there seems to be one in the works, this the SNAP program participation for admission. I was wondering if we could hear about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't have any nice paperwork on that. Sorry about that. So basically what this is called Museums for All Initiative. It's a nationwide initiative. Over 800 museums across the country participate. More growing each day. It is chartered or run by the Association for Children's Museum, which is a national organization in conjunction with the Institute for Museum and Library Services. That's a national organization as well. That's actually a federal organization. And basically what this is an initiative that all museums, well, it fits most museums' mission statements as the idea of providing accessible education and experiences to those that are underprivileged or underserved. So what this does is, for those groups that are sorely, if you look at, and I don't have the numbers, I apologize for that, but I can pull those for you. If you look at the percentages of people that are underprivileged or underserved that actually participate in museums, the main obstacle to anyone coming to their organization is the price. This program right here aims to fix that by allowing anyone that receives benefits, state or federal benefits, the SNAP card. That card can be used to get them and 4 family members, or 3 additional family members in. Now they have to be present when they're there with their card. It has to match the ID. Same thing that we do with military ID and everything else. So that's the very high overview of it. What this does is, not only does it give us a unified national, part of a unified national initiative to bring our museum, our mission is to run a national museum, to get us on that stage. It also expands our outreach to the communities as well, to get us out and get us involved. It leverages us for funding opportunities when we go out for grants and everything else. This is an initiative that they'll look for, not particularly this one, but our accessibility efforts to help with the underserved and underprivileged. And I do have this for you. I know some of the questions here are going to revolve around this, so let me pull this up for you. Based on their study, they do studies every year to see the impact of this. And I think some of the questions here are financial implications. So of the 800 participants in Museums for All, 0% saw dramatic decreases in their ticket sales. 3% saw a slight decrease. Slight increase, 30% saw a slight increase, and 5% saw dramatic increases. What this means is that these are targeting lifelong learners. Museums, we all know that museums, if people start going to museums younger in life, they're more susceptible to continue to return to museums as lifelong learners. So this is helping create that and engage that. I can also, let's see, unexpected outcomes is another big one that we want to focus on with this program. Internal shifts, 20% of museums have seen internal shifts and growth. 40% have seen increased visitor shifts, and fundraising has seen a 20% increasing shift as a result of participating in these programs. This program has also been enacted in place of the Pay What You Can weekend that this museum has typically done in January. We looked at the numbers of that over the past several years. The attendance numbers were fine. The average price that people have paid in those weekends to come here, I want to say $1.30, $1.50 to get into this program. This program actually allows and targets to make sure that we're getting the right people. These are the people that are underserved and need the assistance versus those who will just come when it's free and convenient. So we're actually being able to target, report, and record our impact on these communities. And that's kind of all I have off the top of my head, unless you have.
Okay, so what happens when they come? Is there a program for them? Is there?
It's admission to the
they-
to the museum.
Okay, so they come and they just, now you gotta remember, this is probably people that are not strong readers. And their parents may not be either. So when they come, are they just gonna, is there gonna be anything?
They are considered normal guests.
Okay.
So they would be the general public taking use of this program.
So there's not going to be a structured activity for any, I mean, so when even kids come, I thought there was a scavenger hunt or some kind of structured activity for kids when they come aboard, just in general.
They can get those if they want. They don't have to. It's not just because they use this program doesn't mean you have to follow a set guideline or program.
Now, what's going to keep do the adults have to accompany them, or they can be dropped off, these kids?
The adults have to accompany them. It's like any other guest. We don't allow children to run around the ship without parental supervision.
So they don't, you're sure that they will?
That's our policy. We shouldn't be letting any kids. I don't care if they're SNAP kids or millionaire kids. If they're 5 and 6 years old, they probably need an adult to be on our ships, and that's our policy. So yeah, we don't allow underage kids to roam free on our campus.
Okay. Well, good. Because we do know that there are regular kids that pay full price that run around on the ship. You know, so they do it. So, and I'll just tell you, a lot of times, and this is just anecdotal, when we would take kids on field trips when I was teaching, if there's somewhere, you know, they get and they're just so excited and everything, you know, managing kids can be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you don't, and if you have not enough parents or not enough adults,
yeah, it's not groups.
Yeah, this is a family thing.
This is
I know,
yeah.
but you know, it's very likely that my family's going. So how about your family? You know, a lot of time, you got to remember the dynamic of the communities, especially in Mount Pleasant. They are very, very close and tend to do a lot of things as bigger groups, and a lot of them are cousins and related and stuff too. There's that piece of it. I'm just curious that there's adequate structure. Because you can plan on them running around and disturbing the other guests, and I'm not saying just that, but or I'm not talking anything about low income kids or any of that stuff, but when you get a lot of kids that might be coming like that with inadequate supervision,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see us, for all kids, have some structured something to put in their hand, and that they can take away with them.
Oh, we can, yeah.
You know, that's all I'm saying. Is some
So
kind
you're
of
talking
materials.
about some program, yeah, we can offer free programming like that for the general public. That's different. Sorry, I misunderstood when you say structure. We're not going to have our education department or these people walking around supervising them, giving them guided tours, but we can certainly create that. We're also in the talks of bringing back the audio tours if they want to participate or do that or something like that to follow. So if you're talking about low level of literature, you know, low reading levels, the audio tours will give them a structured thing as well.
Well,
Scavenger hunts are there.
One of the things I've seen at a couple museums in Europe, for when the kids come, and apparently they provide this a lot. They might be given something to do, like go find whatever. And if they filled out the whatever it was, they would
You
go get
redeemed
a
it.
prize.
Yeah.
It might be just a button, or it might be, just something, but it was something that engaged them, and while they were there was a structure to why they were there, and to come away with something. And I think that it's very successful to do that. I think you can get corporate support for that, just a lot of things. One of the places it was a patch.
Mm-hmm.
Another place it was a little book to take home that came with some kind of little toy or something. But I've always been very impressed with how they engage those kids by some type of prize or reward or something like that. And it makes them, and you send them through the parts of the museum that you want them to see, that you feel like are going to be most that they'll get something out of, rather than getting stuck, or going to something that's that may not be as relevant for their, to connect to their school. So that was the structure piece that I was
Yeah, no,
curious
that
about.
we can certainly do that, and that'll be open. Yeah, we've done that. I've had experience creating those, so we work with education, and we can figure that out to do, whether it's a scavenger hunt, or we've done things in the past where you follow you get an identity, right? So and you follow your way through what it was like on your daily routine of the ship, and these are the areas you have to meet.
Right, and you
Yeah.
have to think through too that these adults that come with them, this is going to be just as big a learning experience for them as it is for those kids.
Mhm.
And so, because they're likely an audience that doesn't have a lot of knowledge of ships and the Navy and things
Well, I've
like
seen
that.
just as many adults do those kids tours as the kids do. Trust me, they love them just as much.
Exactly. Well, good. Well, I'm glad that'll be a piece of it, because I think that's be way more beneficial. And then you've got some accountability too. Like in some of them where they hand out whatever that it is, the ticket lady or whoever gives those out has a way to know who's got them, how many went out, and who I was looking at them. And then when they redeem their whatever it is,
Yeah,
they've
see the participation numbers.
got accountability for who's coming and what they're doing while they're here. So, which is a good piece to have that supports the other pieces of what of what you're doing. So, anyway, that's all I got on that. Any questions? Go ahead and ask me anything,
It's lunch.
Wayne.
Where's lunch?
Okay, thank you. Now we go to the Library of Congress project, etc. I guess this is Rory. Programming. Yeah.
We can, yeah. So at the past reports, we've talked about our collaboration with the, Susan, correct me, I always get their names backwards. Colonial Dames, or, yes, okay. Colonial
Society
Dames.
of Colonial Dames.
Society of Colonial Dames, to run this this Library of Congress project. It's Veterans Voices. So what we've been doing is, in the past, right now, currently, we're kind of hosting them. They've taken on the scheduling of interviews, and we've been providing some interviewees, and they've been going out to look for some interviewees. And right now we host them once a month on our ship, where they can put the facilities to collect these veterans' oral histories, and then they seal them up and package them and whatever they do. I apologize, I don't know the whole process there. I don't think it's a whole lot there to the edited thing, and then they send them off to the Library of Congress, and they're held in the Library of Congress. Melissa has been working with them recently, not only to get this is a good opportunity for us to get oral histories for our collection as we do that. So we've been tracking who's doing it, so we have a list of veterans that have already participated, and we're working to get lists on those to reach out. It's a good community service project. But the time has come now to where we will be able to take it over from the Colonial Dames and run it ourselves. We've spoken with Tom. We've put out some feelers for possible volunteers that would be interested in becoming the interviewers and to go through that training. And we had a really nice response for that. And so we will start taking that on and start reaching out and coordinating to get those oral histories and working with the Library of Congress as well to do that. This also gives us another control option. Like I said, it gives us another chance to add to our repository of oral histories for the veterans as well. And it'll also strengthen our relationships with other veteran groups throughout the community as well. So Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, that meeting is next
28.
the 28th with them to talk about the transition of moving over from under them and to moving over to us. So that's, yeah, I mean, if does anyone have any questions on the Library of Congress project?
Do you foresee hiring anybody like a 1099 kind of person?
I saw that. For the immediate future, no, I don't. I still need to get a feel for what all entails in that program. I've seen 95% of it. If it is what it is now, no, but as we grow it, I'm not opposed to it. I think if we have a need for it, we can definitely look at it. But until then, I don't think we're at that place quite yet to do that. But again, that remains to be seen if the Colonial Dames still want to participate, or are they just going to hand it off and let go completely.
I think they do want to still be.
Yeah, and that's
I just think they want it under this umbrella.
Yeah, and so that'll come from those conversations. Once we know more about it, we'll see what the actual breadth of the project will entail.
Thank you. I know they're very appreciative.
They're fun. They're a good group. Interesting group.
Yeah.
The next program that we have coming up is we're working with a group, a foundation, to host To What Remains documentary. That'll be in our Smoky Stover theater right there. This group right here, To What Remains, this is their documentary about what they've done, but they go out and find MIA, recover bodies back, and bring them back to the U.S. It's a big organization. Project Recovery, thank you. It is for Project Recovery, sorry. I know I messed stuff up the other day too. So what they've done is right now they have gone out, this documentary, they've shown it at multiple museums. It's open to the public, it's free, it explains what Project Recovery does. We're working with the Medal of Honor Society right now to host it, since they were the original ones. Project Recovery actually reached out to them, but since it's our facilities, we're working as a joint host to do this. So what we'll do is, what's the date on this, Tiffany? February 17th is the planned date for right now. They are going to do their marketing. They'll send out a team. Their team will be in Philadelphia a few days before that, so they'll drive down to be able to do a Q&A live with the audience. We also have the option of doing a virtual showing, so if people are uncomfortable coming to the theater, they'll receive a link to watch it on their own. I think that link does expire. It's one of those expirable links where they'll be able to do it and participate. This will also open up the door. Project Recovery also has some really nice educational components that they do, not related to this documentary, but to others. So this is another step and a foot in the door to create a meaningful relationship with another organization as well. So we're working with marketing right now and the Medal of Honor Society to come up with some marketing materials. I know Macy is working with them right now to do that. There's also trying to get, I know John Falkenberry is working to get a Medal of Honor recipient to come in and talk with the crew and the filmmakers to discuss what Project Recovery is and what it entails, and the families that it impacts as well. So that is, like I said, that's scheduled for an after-hours event open to the public showing in the theater on the 17th of February. You have any? And I will keep going. Medal of Honor Day. So there are a few things for Medal of Honor Day. The first is we're working with the Medal of Honor Society. We're going to do what I call the media takeover. So Medal of Honor Society they'll be taking over our social media to promote the Medal of Honor on Medal of Honor Day. That's March 25th. Talked with them. They'll be playing on a loop their video, the Medal of Honor video that they have compiled in our theater for that day, and they will have some artifacts pulled out in front of their museum so they can talk with guests about it. Laura is fantastic. I don't know if she's willing to let people touch those artifacts or not, but she will. But either way, there'll be artifacts where typical guests won't be able to and learn more about the Medal of Honor, the Medal of Honor in general, and Medal of Honor Day. I think the other request, we do have a private event. We have a retirement ceremony on there, so there was a request from the Medal of Honor Foundation to do an event at 3:25 on that. That is conflicting with the private event that's already on there, so we're offering up the Vietnam support base, kind of where we did the Veterans Day programming there, which is a really nice backdrop, honestly, to do a program there. I haven't received any updates on that, but that'll be held until we make that decision, until we hear from them to make that decision.
The mayor has reserved town hall to the auditorium at the town
Okay.
of Mount Pleasant to do the 325.
Okay, so we don't have to. Okay. More than
And they'll
that.
have a speaker, and they're going to have some veterans there.
Okay. And that takes care of that. So then it'll be the site-wide. So not one particular event, just a site-wide overshow of Medal of Honor. They're talking about doing some pop-up banners throughout the hangar bay and stuff to highlight Medal of Honor and stuff like that with their media takeover. And that's actually spearheaded with Laura. I think is really running that. I think she's the only one that'll be here. I think the rest, or a lot of people, will be up in DC for their Medal of Honor Day. So that's what we have in the works right now.
Okay, any questions? Okay. Are there any public comments?
There wasn't any sent in either through email.
No, virtually. We're streaming.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, good. Well, if there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you all for everything. Y'all did a great job.